Another well-known story in the Lotus Sutra is that of the son who does not recognize himself, found in Chapter 4 of the Sutra. It is not told by the Buddha, but by 4 senior monks, Subhuti, Katyayana, Kashyapa, and Maudgalyayana, to express their recognition of the enlightenment predicted for Shariputra and by implication for all Shravakas. Thus, the emphasis in the story is on the recognition of the meaning by the disciples as much as on the exposition of it by the Buddha. This is recognized in Kumarajiva's title for the chapter, Faith and Understanding. The story, though rather long, can be briefly summarized. A young man leaves his father and wanders abroad for years. He is reduced to utter poverty, and later accidentally comes to the city where his father, in the meantime, has become very wealthy. The father recognizes the son, but the son does not recognize the father. The father wishes to receive his son as heir to his new wealth, but when he sends messengers, the son is thoroughly scared by their attention, fearing the worst. The father realizes the psychological difficulty of the son and therefore changes his policy. He does not reveal his relationship to him, but instead orders the messengers to set him free and arranges menial work for him to do. Gradually, he gives him more responsibility and better pay, slowly building up his confidence until he can treat him as an adopted son and give him responsibilities for the whole estate. At last, the father, who is near the end of his life, calls together many witnesses and declares the whole story, revealing the true, original relationship. 3 actions of the father in the story are explicitly referred to as skillful means. First, when he realizes that the abject disposition of his son compared with his own high estate are simply too much for the son to cope with. Out of skillful means, he does not say to others, "This is my son." Presumably, this is because any such declaration would merely disrupt the situation which is about to be so carefully devised, just as the original attempt to have the son brought before him was counterproductive. Secondly, in order to attract his son, he sets up a skillful means, which consists in allowing him to shovel dirt away for double wages. Thirdly, the father himself puts on working clothes and goes to urge on the workmen. By this skillful means, he is able to get near to his son, so that he can offer him more wages and security, praise his diligence, and intimate that he is willing to adopt him. Each of these 3 actions is necessary because of the disposition of the son himself. Each involves a provisional disguising of the true situation, for even the shoveling away of the dirt is a task invented to serve the purpose. And when all is done, each of the skillful means is superseded or redundant. Indeed, they have to be set quite aside for the full realization of the purpose to be brought about. As for the son's disposition, it progresses from fear to perplexity and a degree of confidence, until finally satisfaction with what he thinks he has himself achieved through his diligent labor is replaced by joy over quite unexpected treasure. In the interpretation given in the text itself, after the story, the rich father is identified with the Buddha, while the son is taken to represent his disciples. The disciples declare themselves to be all, as it were, sons of the Buddha, and that the Tathagata has always declared them to be his sons. It was they themselves who had not recognized it, and therefore the Buddha, who knew that they took delight in lesser teachings, taught them according to their capacity by his power of skillful means. Not that the Buddha himself simply acquiesces in the lesser teachings, for the world-honored one by his power of skillful means expounds the insight of the Tathagatas. It is the disciples themselves who can only partially understand, and who therefore need formulations which provide a provisional satisfaction. To some extent, a polemical element is also involved, insofar as the disciples are made to admit that they were previously satisfied with inferior or lesser teaching, which is treated as equivalent to the dirt which the poor son was happy to shovel away. At the same time, the polemical element is recognized and superseded in the text itself, which goes on, "In this sutra he now proclaims one vehicle only, and though formerly in front of the bodhisattvas he spoke disparagingly of the Shravakas who were pleased with lesser teaching, yet in reality he was converting them with the teaching of the Mahayana." According to this standpoint, the Mahayana does not seek an exclusive differentiation of vehicles, some to be confirmed and some to be rejected, but rather it implies an inclusive universalism. Even though some sentences seem to give special eminence to the bodhisattva vehicle, the final words of this chapter in the verse sequence present the Buddha's activity as follows. According to how all the living beings in previous lives put down good roots, they have knowledge of the mature and of those who are immature. They take it all into account, articulate it in their understanding, and following the way of the one vehicle, they appropriately expound the three. Leaving aside the polemical entanglements and their resolution, the story clearly conveys also, just like that of the burning house, a general understanding of the nature of religious teaching in Buddhism. It picturesquely illustrates how certain elements in the teaching as a whole are less than ultimately true. However, they are supposed not to be fraudulent, because they are psychologically necessary in the initial stages. Without a certain amount of dissimulatory packaging, it would not be possible to convey the essence at all. One may surmise that if the ultimate contents of the packaging turned out to be disappointing or less valuable than the package itself, then objections would be in order. The charge would be deceit. However, the result given in the story is not a charge of deceit, but an expression of surprise and gratitude and joy. The final decision or response in this connection is not a matter for the observer to judge as observer. What must be noted is that various aspects of graded Buddhist guidance are clearly thought of as provisional, and that they find their ultimate resolution and dismissal in the successful appropriation of the Buddhist meaning.